Hey everybody, welcome back to another live session. We were off last week, so it's really fun to be back and always happy to be back to answer questions. So um, added a little bit of art to that back wall so we weren't in the white void anymore. And so hopefully the art gives you a little bit of something to look at while we go through this live session. Okay, so I want to dive in on a number of different items before we kick off. We're going to get down to business really quickly. If you've ever been here before, you know I like to not waste a lot of time. I was unable to get the video out yesterday, and I really apologize for that. I've been incredibly consistent over the last 3.5 years of always producing. So there will be a new original content video out next week that I'm really excited about. It was a little bit more robust than I anticipated, and I didn't plan appropriately, so the video didn't come out. So original content will come out next week. Obviously, we didn't go live last week because I was out on vacation, and so we're back. So I'm anticipating a pretty robust session today. So here's what's happening. We've been talking so much about the recession and hiring freezes in the job market, but actually, if you look at the unemployment numbers versus job openings, we're at basically the lowest unemployment rate we've been at in 20 years, or we're equal to the lowest unemployment rate in the last 20 years. So in that sense, is the job market actually hot? There's 2 jobs for every one person that could fill them. That's telling me that maybe all this gloom and doom isn't as bad as we think it is, and that there are lots of opportunities out there. And so I kind of wanted to switch it up because we've been talking a lot about freezes and recession, but actually, if you look at the numbers, the big trending number, which is unemployment, that number is really low. It's at 3.6%. So the job market, especially in the US, could still technically be considered hot at this point. Okay, I just want to pitch a couple of items and then we're going to dive right in. If you've ever been here before, I get to all the questions. I do take them in order. Sometimes, well, I'll be honest, all the time I get about 20 minutes behind on answering questions. If you don't have enough time to hang out, you're in a later time zone, obviously you can always go back to YouTube and watch. I'm Jeff H. Sipe. My business is practiceinterviews.com. I do interview coaching, I do negotiation coaching, and we have an interview mastery course. If you've ever been to these lives, sometimes I will do a discount. We're going to do a discount of $100 on the course until 11:59 Pacific time today. If you use the discount code DOG, that's D-O-G in all caps, D-O-G in all caps, it's $100 off the course. I think that's it. If you like what we're doing today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, I do original content every other Tuesday, and then I go live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific. All right, 3 minutes in. Let's dive in. Excited to help you guys out today. And obviously, if anybody wants to share, where they're visiting from, or it doesn't just have to be questions, it can be tips, it can be information, all that's good. And then lastly, I think everybody knows we're a pretty positive platform, so we'll try to keep it positive. Not everything we're going to talk about today is going to be positive, but we try to keep that positive lead. Okay, hope you had a great time off. Thank you. I completed the virtual on-site for L5 TPM role at Google last week. Yesterday, your recruiter informed you they're moving to HC. Okay, good. It looks like the second comment bailed on us. Let's see what this third comment is. What is a good anchor for L5 TPM in Bangalore? Okay, so not as familiar. I have had negotiation clients in India, but not as familiar with TPMs. Let's use that model. So we'll plug it as a resource in here. Use that video. Think about what a software engineer, look at levels.fyi, look at what a software engineer is making, and times about 0.8, 0.85, and that will get your most likely salary. So you're going to want to go ahead and anchor above that. I hope that helps. Hope you had a nice break. I have a very confusing situation. Okay, I just followed up with you on YouTube, but let's tackle it. Well, we are technically on YouTube, I guess. So let's tackle this here, though. Confusing situation. I actually applied for the APMM role 7 months ago. Okay. You did the writing assignment, asked to have a coffee chat with the team 10 days ago. I think it went well. It's actually been 2 weeks since then I didn't hear anything back. I'm very confused. It's not a bad sign. You just need to go ahead and follow up. Remember, just as a cue to anybody who's going to come in and ask this question, 5 business days. If you haven't heard back in 5 business days, that is a totally acceptable amount of time. Just follow up. see what's going on. That's my strong recommendation. Okay, let's go back. Okay. Thanks for useful tips. Equity refreshers at Google and Facebook are related to base salary. How are they computed? They're not related to base salary. If you found that data somewhere, refresher grants are based on the equity band for refreshers for that level, for that location, for that position. They're not based on base salary. And the thing about all the refresher grants that we need to keep in mind is they are not based on anything that has to do with your current package. Because remember, people are going to come in varying discrepancies. Refreshers, there's a band on that refreshers. The higher the performance, the higher the refresher grant. The better the manager relationship, the better the refresher grant. Those are the pieces you need to keep in mind. It's not a calculation based off of base salary. It's a calculation that is refresher specific. I hope that helps. Refreshers can be incredibly confusing, so if you have more questions, please come back. TC, Test Engineering Manager at Google India. Levels.fyi doesn't have much. What factor of SWE role would test role make? Okay, so we've been covering, I think, this a little bit on the Slack group. I'm pretty sure Slack or YouTube. So, again, test is going to pay just a little bit less, but keep it in that 0.8, 0.85, 0.9 range for what you're seeing on levels for like a SWE manager. Should I tell Google Recruiter that I just started a new job, even though I really want to work at Google and I want to keep my scheduled initial interview with the hiring manager? No need to tell them that right now. Just go through the process. We're not there yet. So yeah, absolutely go through the process. You don't need to tell them at this point. Dropping in to say hi and thanks for your videos. They played a huge role in getting an offer from GE. You're awesome. Awesome. What I love, and thank you so much, congrats, it's amazing. What I love about people showing up is that it's the art of possible. It shows what's possible, right? And anybody who's here, you can do it. You got to put in some work. It's going to take some time, but you can do it. Congrats. Recently, I had your first interview with a recruiter. Before the interview, the job posting that I was being interviewed was taken down from the careers page. Does that happen sometimes? All the time. When they feel like they might have a good pipeline of candidates, they feel pretty confident, they'll pull it down. I've seen more of a trend of doing that in the last couple of years, so nothing to worry about. As long as the process is moving forward for you, no concerns there. Submitted to HC for US, L4 SWE. The recruiter sentiment seems positive and next steps would be team matching. Your GNL videos really made me feel like a strong hire. Awesome, Bradley. Thanks for the positive feedback. Thanks for all the videos. I have a final interview tomorrow with the HM GCA Senior AS role, Dublin, Ireland. Okay. The recruiter mentioned that I had really strong feedback in my previous interview. Any last minute tips? Okay, so with the HM GCA, yeah, I mean, my two GCA pieces of feedback are always the same, right? We gotta solve wearing the hat of the role. That will make everything easier for us. We definitely want to use CFAS for these heavy-duty open-ended questions. Really focus in on specificity and assumptions. I find that, again, this is an account strategist. For account strategists, that they're not narrowing down enough, and those assumptions really narrow down. Good luck. Who else can I contact apart from the recruiter? Any leads would be helpful. We would probably want more information there. If you have a recruiter point of contact, you really should be going through them. If you interviewed and you haven't heard back in like 4 weeks, then you should be tapping into those interviewers if you could find them on LinkedIn, if you have their contact info, but otherwise you should be going to the recruiter. Thanks, James. Is there an update on the hiring freeze or squeeze at Google? If yes, any specific levels? How long is it going to last? I have not seen, there's not been a hiring freeze at Google. I haven't seen it. It doesn't mean that roles won't get frozen, but that's normal in a really good economy. Headcount shifts quite often. So it's not uncommon, but there has not been an overall hiring freeze or stoppage of hiring at Google. I haven't seen that at all or heard that from any of my internal POCs. Completed 3 rounds of RRK. Last round was not that good. Next week, I have a GCA round. I'm feeling nervous and demotivated because of the last round. How do I bring myself back on track? One interview is not a stopper, right? So if one interview doesn't go fantastic, that's okay. You just need to let it go, because remember, we can't go backwards. We can only be in the present and move forwards. So don't worry about it. If the other 3 interviews are strong, worst case scenario, maybe they have you redo it. So knowing that data point, let it go and move forward. Good luck. Any suggestions on how we can manage Google interview preparation and regular job? Yeah, calendaring. You have to set a schedule to prep, okay? And what that means is sometimes when we have families and we have other things that we need to take into consideration, you need to put an hour aside. So if you normally take an hour aside a night to watch TV or read a book or go for a walk, now you could go for a walk and listen to content. You can listen to YouTube videos like mine. You don't need to watch me to listen to them, but set aside at least an hour a day. And then on the weekends, set aside some time in the morning or some time in the afternoon. I know that people have very challenging schedules. I know some people have a lot of children and it can be challenging, but calendaring it out and sticking to that calendar is the best way to prep, especially when you have a job. And that's the situation for most people. Hi. Hello. About 1 month ago, the recruiter told me they submitted the scheduling request for my final interviews. For the following week, nothing was scheduled. I've continued to follow up. I haven't been asked for availability again or received any sort of an update. Is this some sort of a test? No, Hank, it's not a test. I would follow up again and with updated availability and say, hey, I just wanted to provide some updated availability. I'm still looking forward to the interviews. You got to follow up again. This is pretty bad form to not hear back for a month. So get in front of it, give them some new data, okay, and keep us posted. Negotiations with Google. L5 SWE with FANG competing offer at L4. Can I expect Google to beat the lower level offer? They claim they can only match, but I expected higher. Competing offer in negotiations with Google for an L5 SWE with FANG competing. I'm a little confused by this. I don't know why you would bring in an L4 competing for an L5 role. That's probably not going to help you. Yeah, usually what they're looking to do is at least match, maybe beat. The fact that they claim they can only match is a false claim. That's not always true. It's a case-by-case basis. Keep us posted. Okay. How do you handle an RRK when you don't know the answer? Well, it depends on the type of RRK question, right? So if you don't know the answer on the open-ended side, that means we're not spending enough time to gather our thoughts, at least 1 minute or up to a minute, and then really having a plan for clarifying questions, frameworks, pre-planning assumptions. That's about planning. So on the open-ended side, you should always have a plan. You should have that cheat sheet down below. And that's just, again, a planning organizational item. Now, on the behavioral side, we want to look for overarching themes. What do I mean by that? We want to look for themes that, what is the question asking for? Is it a question that's asking for process, strategy, collaboration? Just think about the question. If you don't have an example, look for the overarching theme. And then if it's a little bit off, you just say to your interviewer, I think this gets to the core of what you're asking. I believe this question is about collaboration. My example is a little bit off from what you're asking. Is it okay if I present that example? They're usually never going to say no, okay? So just something to keep in mind. I hope that strategy helps, but take your time, slow down a little bit. So went through the final loop of interviews at Google for a design position for L5. I have the hiring manager statement of support, and I think all the interviews are positive, okay? What do you think the chances of an offer would be? Can't tell you. Yeah, unfortunately, this is something I don't have access to the data. I don't have access to the information. It sounds good. Hiring manager likes you, positive feedback. You know, when it comes to HC, some people don't like my stats, but what I see is 2 yeses, 2 nos, and 2 maybes. And if we're talking about 6 people, so it gives you an opportunity to have success. But I just can't predict for you. I would just be guessing, but it sounds positive right now. Good luck. Love the content. Today's session gives me hope in the market. Question, salary expectation for a network test engineer, L4, Google stocks based bonus. All right. I'm not going to go ahead and give you the full breakdown, but I can tell you network test engineer. I mean, I would be anchoring in the high twos, low threes. I think, something in the mid to high twos is what I would expect. Maybe that like 260-ish, 270, something like that. But I think for this role, I would anchor into the low threes. Thank you for all the amazing content. Your videos helped me pass the interview at Google, and now the recruiter asked me to send some information about your work, education. Is this the HC phase? Do you know how long it will take to get a response? Okay, awesome. Been to Sao Paulo, good spot. So I can't tell you how long it would take to respond, but usually these items are when you're at the HC phase, or sometimes when they're skipping HC, this is the offer phase. So you're definitely at a good step. Remember, always leave that compensation category blank. What's a good anchor? Google Cloud, Customer Engineer, SA, L5 or L6? Well, customer engineers are making pretty good money these days. So, again, anchoring just as a message to the community. I think I have a hair back here and it's just bothering me. As a message to the community, it's much, much easier to just pick one level, multiple levels anchoring. It will just slow us down a little bit. But, L6s, are definitely making into the 400s for sure. I'm just trying to think of my most recent one. Yeah, I mean, these are very, very high paying roles. So like, if you're going after a 6, I would definitely be anchoring into the 5s. If you're going after a 5, I would definitely be anchoring into the 4s. You really want to stretch the bounds. These roles pay pretty well. Would you ever negotiate above the advertised salary? How do you effectively negotiate? Kayla, that's a pretty big question. So yeah, the advertised salary, like let's say it's a Colorado-based position, they put that salary out there. Salary is just one component, right? So we're never ever negotiating on salary. We're always negotiating on total comp, and most of these organizations are going to at least have a base and bonus if they're not public. Most, not all, but most. So you're really looking to negotiate on a total number. How you effectively negotiate, it's really a few items. You're gracious and kind. People will work harder for you when you're gracious and kind. You should set a high anchor, but I say that with the caveat of some smaller companies, you can scare them away with big numbers. If you're going into a big organization, you can really anchor high. It's not going to have them running away. So anchoring high, and then just knowing the market, knowing the numbers, using tools like levels.fyi, teamblind.com, etc. A ton of videos on negotiation that I hope will help you. Currently in the process for HC at Google for a network test engineer. HR pushed L4 instead of L5 to make a strong case. Any idea if this is common? How long does it generally take HC to review? Well, HC review depends on how many times they meet a week. Your recruiter should be telling you the exact day and time you're going to HC. Them not telling you is just them not giving you all the data that you should have. Now, to push level down, I think there's a lot of people on this chat who could tell you leveling down is pretty common. They want to set you up for success so you can come in, feel successful, and get promoted to the next level. So it's very common to push down on level. Recently received an L3 London offer, and you're from India. Visa wait times are more than 3 months. My question is, how long can the start date be extended? Can Google rescind during the wait? Google can, but it's very, very, very unlikely. Okay, I don't really see it happening. There are random one-off cases that's less than 1% where something happens because of the timeline. I can tell you I got a data point from somebody recently. The times are long, but the processing, Google does the advanced fast processing on visas globally. So sometimes it feels longer, but they can push some of the pieces of the puzzle to move things quicker. Keep us posted, okay? But you shouldn't be too concerned. It would be a very, very random case for that to happen. Do you have any idea about the odds of getting refresher stocks at Amazon AWS? Any data points? Yeah, the refreshers are not very good there. They ultimately have to re-up after 4 years, I do hear that there are tiny little refresher grants year after year, but the refreshers are not going to be as strong as like a Google or Meta, not even close. And I just, my 2 cents on Amazon is that comp over time isn't great. I don't think that Amazon is competing with the other companies because after 4 years, it just doesn't make a ton of sense to stay there. That's just from what I've seen. Finished your interviews for a PM role 2 weeks ago, but haven't heard anything from the recruiter. Pin drop silence, wrote them as well, no reply. What can be done? Just follow up again. This is graciousness and kindness. I'm still excited and enthusiastic about the role. Wanted to check in again before the holiday weekend. And again, that would be if it was in the US. If you're not in the US, we have a big holiday, July 4th on Monday, and Google will be off Monday and Tuesday of next week. Both are holiday days, okay? So definitely follow up again right now. Show excitement, enthusiasm, graciousness, and kindness. Would my current salary play a role in deciding my compensation at Google? It depends on where you're located. In the US, no. They actually cannot consider current comp because of a court case in Massachusetts that something happened. I can't find it online, but they don't consider current comp. And like, let's talk about that. That's totally ridiculous. They'll consider a competing offer of somewhere that you're not, but they won't consider current comp. That drives me absolutely crazy. But they won't consider it. Not in the US, at least. In other countries, they will. Passed your technical phone screen for a TPM, and recruiter said that there needs to be HM interested before the on-site can be scheduled. Is this concerning? No, what they're trying to do is they're trying to identify team matches earlier on to overcome some of just the long waiting, all the back and forth at the end of the process. So it's not a bad thing. It may require some patience though. For an account executive or account manager role, is it very essential to have an MBA or master's? Would great past performance and reviews work? Master's is 100% not necessary for those jobs. I hope you had a great vacation. Thank you. And the team match and wondering what are the stats to pass and get the offer? It's for an L6 TPM or PGM. There are no stats. I think that when people get to the team match stage, it's probably at least 50%, maybe higher, will ultimately end up with a team and at Google. But it's just a total wild card. There's a lot of unknowns that I just can't see. So I would just say stay patient and stay in touch with your recruiter. After good reviews for online interviews, it moved to team match facing a month ago. L4 PGM role, NYC or Mountain View. Recruiter says your profile has no interest from any HM. Okay. Okay, so this scenario does happen sometimes. You just need to stay in touch with that recruiter. Sometimes they will close out your profile after 4 weeks or 1 month. It really depends on the recruiter, but I still want you to stay in touch with them. Let's imagine your recruiter's name is Jane. Jane, I want to stay in touch with you. How often can I reach out to you? Once a month? Once every 3 months? I want to make sure that I'm keeping my candidacy as active as possible. So if you create that kind of cadence, but it's not too overwhelming, like you're reaching out once a day or once a week, I think that usually creates a good strategy. But yeah, this can be really tough. Past on-site before HC, informal interview with the BU leader. Recruiter told me prior to the interview they were deciding between me and another candidate. It's been a few weeks and haven't received a decision, so I'm likely the backup. Anything I can do if I don't get it? Any advice on how to best situation, leverage it into another interview? Recruiter also let me know that he would give me an update by end of last week, but I haven't heard anything. Check in right now. Let's just check in. Let's see what's going on. Say, hey, I'm sure you're busy. Really just wanted to figure out what was happening. And then from there, if it is a no, if you are the backup, maybe you want to identify a couple of roles that you think are a fit. If you do that, do 1 to 2, give them the specific links and write down 3 to 5 bullets for why you're a fit, but try and stay in touch and build that relationship with the recruiter because that's going to keep you in the loop for the future. Get the likes up. Headed to my 1:30 p.m. Meta interview. Wish you luck. James, good luck. Remember that Meta is going to lean behavioral, right? So really be prepped on those behavioral answers. They will throw in some open-ended questions. They really look for fit. So good energy, good excitement, good enthusiasm. Stand up if you can, if you're not in too many back-to-backs, okay? Good luck. Okay, so again, Marco, and I probably said this comment after you posted this, but it's really helpful when we have one level, one role, one location, because again, multiple levels, we're just going to spend a lot of time throwing out some random numbers. Designers are at a premium right now. So this kind of like UX, UI, research, design, virtual design, all of that is seeing an uptick in the market right now because design is hot. So, if I'm going in as an L5, I'm definitely anchoring, into the high threes, maybe higher. I'm just really seeing a real push for this design types of roles. So I would just stretch the bounds as much as you can. After my first discussion with an HR for a sales position, we received feedback, shared the discussion points with the business. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I have no idea what that means because that statement is unclear to you. It's unclear to me. It's probably very unclear to the audience. It's really important that if something's not clear, that we follow up and say, "Can you explain a little bit more? I'm outside of the organization, and this may be terminology that I'm just not familiar with." I want to really take a pause because this is such a critical item when we think about interviewing, negotiation, but especially interviewing and just communication in general. Your audience knows nothing about nothing, right? Like we don't know anything about anybody else's environment. So it's so important when we communicate with others that we share specific details, but we share them at a basic knowledge and understanding level. I know I'm getting off track here, but I see this so often in the interviews, like especially on the behavioral side, we dive into these pieces of information, but your audience doesn't know. So I think it's okay to push back and say, I'm not really understanding the language here. Can you share a little bit more details on what you mean by that? Just stopping in to say you start with Google on the 18th. Thanks for all your support and keep up the amazing content. James, I know we've been in it for a while, so so excited that you're finally starting and really happy that you joined the community and you're a part of the journey. And I know you've showed up a lot on Slack as well. So congrats. Amazing. So I don't have a great pulse on the overall market in India, but I mean, my number one is these big FANG companies and especially Google. And I haven't seen any downtick in hiring, at least for, well, I guess we're not calling it FANG anymore. We're calling it Magma or whatever the heck we're supposed to call it. But I haven't seen it decline for India, Google at least. About to have a virtual on-site BSA interview next week. One of the sessions is solution design outside of domain, technical. What does that mean? Is that the same as cross-functional? So here's the thing about solution design that I really like. Solution design, absolutely you can use CFAS because we get this big solution design question. We want to bring in some clarification, right? Our framework is more of the foundational design item. So if you look at the 4 pictures behind me, it's like boom, 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 and boom. We're kind of setting that design item that could be very similar to a framework. Then we're going to pick one of those areas to start our design with, make a couple of assumptions, and solve. So CFAS works really good for solution design. Hopefully you can use Google Draw, get a little familiar with Google Draw so you can start to pull some of those components together, create a visual for your audience. But CFAS really works for these specific interviews. So it means they might have you solution design for something random. That's okay. I just want you to think about that methodology and use that to your advantage. I hope that helps. At 30s, we're just going to prompt super, super quick to 30s. First things first, if you use the coupon code DOG, That's DOG in caps. $100 off of our mastery course just till 11:59 Pacific time today. Again, that's DOG, dog in caps. We do practice interviews. We do one-on-one negotiation coaching. If you like what we're doing today, smash that like button. And if you've never subscribed, new videos, new content videos every other Tuesday and live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. All right, let's go back into it. Just past the HC part of the new grad interview process. How often do people not find a team during the team match? I need to make a decision on an offer from another company soon. So it does happen sometimes. So the biggest piece here is that you have a data point that you can poke your recruiter on and just say, hey, look, I have this other offer. I know it's a process, but I just want to keep highlighting that I can't hold this offer at bay for forever. So continue to give that data point to them, and that could help them push the process. But the actual percentage, I can't tell you. 4 years of agency experience and 2 financial client services. Does L3 make sense? Okay, so yeah, so Maggie, we chatted about this a little bit on the Slack group. The offer is 97K base, 35% bonus, and 49 equity. You can push all these numbers. The base can come up. The bonus you can't touch. The equity can definitely be bolstered. So I would really focus in on the base a little bit, but really try and push that equity number as much as you can. Absolutely. In the team matching phase with Google, any tips to sell myself and crush the interview? Yeah, team match for me is really 3 items. Excitement, enthusiasm, energy. You cannot come in flat. That first impression is key. What's also important with the first impression? A great answer to tell me about yourself, right? Really strengths focused, role focused, and then great questions. Ask about them. Nobody's asking about them in the team match. They're making it all about themselves. You want to make it about the potential hiring manager. Find out about them. The more people talk about themselves, the more they like you. Okay, so those are the key items, but great enthusiasm and be prepared for anything. Could be GCA-like, could be behavioral, or could be straight up where they just ask you a couple of questions, they share more about the opportunity, and then you ask questions. Ongoing for privacy web tech consultant. Next is HM round, focusing in on stakeholder and client management, what to expect. How is this different from googliness? So, well, they've told you that they're going to focus in on stakeholder and client management. So that's about a challenging client, a successful relationship, a challenging stakeholder, a successful stakeholder relationship, one that was challenging from a process perspective, strategy perspective, technology perspective. So really get in that collaborative mindset, and that's going to help you the most as you go into that interview. Been getting communications for a solutions engineer in GTech. How do I pivot my recruiter for more of an engineer type role? Do I contact the same recruiter or try another one, software engineer? You're not gonna break that. You're not gonna break in by just randomly contacting software engineer recruiters. They get hit up more than anybody. So that's not a great path. You can talk to your recruiter about saying, look, I'm excited about a solutions engineer role. What's the opportunity to potentially explore software engineer roles as well? Just introduce that concept with them, okay? Hi, Jeff. After my final interview, the recruiter told me the position is closed and that they're looking for another team for me. Then I got a chance to talk to the HM, but there's not any feedback after that. It's been 2 weeks. Does this mean that the match has failed, and am I still considered as a candidate, or am I dropped off? Follow up. That's all you can do, and be gracious and kind and say, hey, just wanted to check in, still excited and enthusiastic about the role, had a great conversation with the hiring manager. Can you tell me about what the next steps are? Super positive. How is technical solutions consultant role different from a SWE? They're totally different roles. Technical solutions consultant is more about handling technical solutions from external clients, and a SWE is spending all their time coding. Technical solutions consultants, I think that they may have just dropped the coding interview for these. I know they did for TSEs. I don't know if they did for TSCs, but you're not going to code in that role. Is it a good idea to change job in coming months considering a recession? Yeah, it depends on the organization. Remember, some of these smaller companies are the startups are a little bit more at risk, um, but you just want to kind of understand the financials behind the company, etc. There's always a risk when moving jobs, but I think the bigger risk is staying in a job where you're unhappy. So anytime you move, there's risk because you could be first in, first out if there is some sort of layoff, but I wouldn't allow that to stop you from taking that journey. Okay, you accepted an offer from Google for TPM. Videos were really helpful, amazing. Congrats. Thank you so much for showing up and letting us know. Interviewed 9 months ago and passed the interviews, but was stuck in team match. Interviewed again last week, which was a tech screen at a higher level, and I was told I had to start the process over. I passed the tech screen, and now they want me to do the on-site again. However, I don't have a team. Any tips? Also, how can I prep effectively without having a team and domain to focus on? So, when this happens, you want to focus in on, and I don't know, so T-Match, so this is probably Google. So you just want to focus in on product areas. So what does that mean? I want you to pre-plan some assumptions for the role type. I don't really know what type of role it is, but you could make some pre-planned assumptions for some of the bigger product areas. Google Cloud, Google Search, Maps, any of these big areas, YouTube, you can really pre-plan assumptions for the bigger product areas when you don't have a domain. It does make it harder, but if you go in with those planned assumptions, it will really help, especially obviously for open-ended questions. I had a follow-up interview for an area, code review, that was covered but not documented well by the initial interviewer. This is for TSE. Okay, so you did do a code review for TSE. Interesting. The recruiter met the HM after, and it's positive now at HC again. Does it normally move quicker from here on out? It was the only gap identified. How fast it moves depends on how busy HC is, how motivated your recruiter is, how much and how well they work with the hiring manager to get all that data in. So many X factors. So just stay on top of it, stay patient. That's all you can do, but it sounds good right now. Just heard back from Google. Recruiters said they aren't moving forward after on-site interview for PGM role. Your videos are amazing, disappointed, but encouraged to move forward. Yeah, John, I'm sorry to hear that, but keep trying. You know, the percentage of people who make it into Google, not the first time, it's a pretty high percentage. You know, a lot of people, 60, 70% of people are making it in the second or third time. And thanks so much for the gratitude. Appreciate it. How technical solution? Okay, so we answered that question. Okay, so we answered that first part. What is the comp difference L5 to expect at Singapore? It's going to be a relatively large differential. Okay, you're probably looking at 30. It's 70%. TSC would pay 70% of what a SWE is paid. Thanks for all the amazing content. You went through all the interviews and the recruiter asked for some information in a spreadsheet. Said it's the last phase. Would this phase be the HC phase? Well, it's just devastating that they cannot seem to tell anybody any information. So, you know, I can just give a quick plug for the video next week. The video next week is to help Google recruiters do a better job. I don't think that the video is going to have a very positive response. I think it'll be really helpful for Google recruiters and for candidates to see how I look at it. You could be at the HC phase or you could be at the offer phase. Not everybody's going to HC these days. It is a good sign to fill out that information. And as always, leave the comp expectations blank. Comp expectations, senior PM, Denver, AI, ML, deep learning, will be getting an offer from a recruiter mentioned initial 190 to 220K base and total comp around 349 at a non-FANG large tech company. Yeah, I mean, senior product manager in Denver, AI, ML, 349. I mean, product is so hot, and you're mixing product, hottest role in the world, with the other hottest focus area, which is AI and ML. So I would really want you to get paid quite a bit more than 350, even in a Denver market. I think it's too low, and I would be pushing back. Your skill set for something like this, senior product manager, Denver, the skill set, you know, in a Denver market at a Google, you're going to get paid at least $500,000. So it's just something to keep in mind. You need to be careful though. Again, I don't know the organization. I know with these large tech companies, you can push that envelope quite a bit, but it does feel low to me based on your skill set. Your skill set is very, very unique. Thanks for making the videos. They really helped me nail the Googliness in interview. You just signed an L3. Sweet offer. Awesome, Eric. Congrats. Thanks so much. I so much appreciate you showing up and letting us know. Is negotiating 15 to 20K above the advertised salary at a nonprofit unlikely to work? Probably. At a nonprofit, you want to make sure you really focus in on trying to get more, but not too much more. That could be, they could rescind that offer. So you just got to be really, really careful, okay? I can't tell you, I don't know the nonprofit. I don't know the job title. There's a lot of information, and I still probably won't have all that. But just be careful, tread lightly when negotiating for a nonprofit or with a nonprofit. How difficult would it be to pivot to product management role coming 4 years, dev, newly acquired MBA? Can't tell you. But the shift to product is not an easy shift. It's basically it's product and any role that has an AI ML component. Those are the two hottest roles in the world, so it can be difficult to shift, but I don't want to tell you what's possible. Anything's possible. It's just about where the opportunity lies and how much effort and time you put into it. Google wants more interviews after your final loop. They typically ask before or after the recruiter submits you to HC. Depends. They should have told you that, of course. Sometimes they get in front of it and say, hey, a couple of interviews were good, but we want to do better before HC. HC gave us guidance, so they should have better communication. If it's not clear, I want you to go back and ask. Google Program Manager, L5, not TPM. Dude, which I love, is that name. I use that a lot. Being in Southern California. Can't tell you. I know we're pretty far behind here, but I can't tell you without knowing the location. The location will dramatically change that piece. If you are interested in me having me propose an anchor for you, role, level, and location are going to be those necessary data points. Any good suggestion for system design interview? Yeah, again, we kind of talked about solution design, so I still like CFAS. Right? We want to clarify, we want to set those critical design components up. That's very similar to a framework. Then we're going to make some assumptions and we're going to solve for one item at a time, but we want to check in. We create these kind of buckets in our system design, and then we say, should we start with X? I think we should start with X. What do you think? Because they might want you to design on another concept. Bring them into the conversation, but you have to clarify. That's one of the biggest challenge areas I see in system design is just diving in. Clarification is really going to be helpful. Good luck. Hi. Is it okay to ask for interviews to be broken into multiple days? Totally. And the way we pitch that is we pitch that as, I'm really open and flexible to doing the interviews over multiple days if that's better for you guys. So, because the goal is we are in a virtual environment. So super, super helpful, right? This is an advantage to do it over multiple days. Back in the day, pre-COVID, we had to go for 3, 4, 5 back to back. We had to sit there face to face. We had to commute. We had to do all these things. So just say, I'm open and flexible if you'd like to split them over multiple days. Another question, no apologies for questions. That's what I'm here for. I'm going through negotiations with Amazon non-tech role. The recruiter came back and mentioned that needs approval from VP since my expectations are outside of the range. Okay. I always don't mind if they escalate us up. Let them escalate. If we can get that VP approval, great. So don't worry too much about that. You just might have to be patient. It might take a few days. Moving to HC at G. There's no data on Indian salaries. I checked with the recruiter on the range. She dodged, also didn't answer. Also, is it to assume cash salary, any other to get an idea? Levels.fyi has a ton of data on salaries in India. You just need to be utilizing software engineer salaries, and then if it's non-tech, times that salary, that SWE number times zero point 0.7. Now, if it's a little bit more technical role, you can go to 0.75, 0.8. If it's really non-tech, 0.65. But there is a ton of data, levels.fyi, on what salaries pay in your market. Does Google recruit vice president based on a virtual interview? Everything's being done still virtually. It doesn't mean that you couldn't meet up for a coffee chat, and at the VP level, I'm seeing a little bit more like informal, maybe like a lunch or a coffee. But yeah, the overall interview should still be virtual. The initial offer, the initial offer was way lower than I'm currently making, and it needs to be increased by 30% to even get to whatever I'm making. Any thoughts on how I can push higher? Also, is it worth making a lateral move to break into FANG? I'm currently at a non-tech FANG tier 2, 3H hardware company. It's like, thanks. Well, we want to get that comp and continue to push and push and push. But yeah, of course, long-term perspective is absolutely critical. And yeah, getting into a FANG or Magma or whatever we're calling it to stay, let's just go back to FANG. That will do wonders for your career. It's really going to open a lot of doors. So I do want you to be thinking about the long-term perspective. My technical one-on-one was more of a conversation. I'm worried that I might not be a good signal for HC. When does HC ask for more interviews? HC asks for more interviews when it's not a clear fit, but if it felt like more of a conversation, that's a good sign. That means it was casual, it had good flow, so that's a positive sign, not a bad sign. So that's, yeah, so the title of this is the job market hot. Well, again, if we look at the US-based numbers, I can't speak globally, but in the US, unemployment's at like an all-time low, or one of the lowest data points we've seen over the last 20 years. There's 2 jobs for every 1 person. So all of a sudden we're seeing recession, hiring freezes, all this stuff, but there's still all these jobs that need to be filled. So that was why I kind of put that thumbnail out there. I was like, oh my goodness, we're talking so much about gloom and doom, but the job market, especially in the US, is still very, very hot, very good. So will that change over time? Maybe. But I thought it was an interesting concept to throw out there today. Thanks for all the great content. Accepted an offer with Google, and we'll start next month. Would not have been possible without your help. Thank you so much. And again, as always, it's your work and effort that got you there. I provide some tips and tricks, but it's really the prep, the practice that people are putting in behind the scenes, and that's why you got there. Congrats. Sorry, I scrolled ahead quite a bit. I know we're behind. We're about a half an hour behind. Once we hit the hour mark, I'll start to try and pick up the pace a little bit, just to keep us on track, and I appreciate you hanging out. As always, if you can't make it through the whole entire live, watch it on YouTube. You can always go back and watch it, and usually I'll have those timestamps up before the next live. It just takes a little while to go back and timestamp everything, but I know we're a little bit behind. I'll start to try and pick up the pace a little bit. Hope you had a great vacation. Thank you. Do recruitment coordinators at Google, the ones who aid in scheduling interviews, have access to your interview feedback? That's a really interesting question. I don't believe so. But maybe because they just need to access the system, but I don't think they do. But it's kind of funny. I actually don't know the answer to that question. As always, thanks for your content. Just wanted to say you got an L6 Amazon offer and you're negotiating at the moment. Your course prep and videos played a big role. Awesome. Yeah, I'll just throw that out there again. If you're interested in the course, DOG, dog in all caps, and it's $100 off just for today. What are some companies that you think might compete with Google Meta on non-technical comp? Apple. Apple would definitely compete. Some of the other companies that I've seen coming in that were doing good, like Coinbase was doing really well. Snap still does well. ByteDance does well. Stripe has done pretty well. So it really just depends on how much you're able to negotiate, level of role, etc. I still believe that like pound for pound. I don't even know if that makes sense. I guess if we're in the UK, it does. But pound for pound, like Google really comp over time is pretty hard to beat. But some of these other companies do pretty well. I think Apple. We don't talk a lot about Apple. I do get some Apple clients, but I think Apple's comp over time is very, very strong as well. Any inputs on the senior engagement manager strategy interview? Yeah, this is all about strategy, process, how you embed technology in that strategy and process, and heavily, heavily collaborative. How would I know what level I'm applying for at Google? The recruiter is not transparent. I want to know if an L5 PM at Amazon is similar to an L5 PM at Google. L5 PM at Amazon should be an L4 PM at Google. Usually Amazon is one level above. But they should be sharing level. And by the way, next week's video, I am going to absolutely crush them on the leveling thing. This is getting absurd that they are just refusing to share a level. I don't know who's coaching them on that, but it's a terrible, terrible strategy. And it's super frustrating for me too. I just don't know why they're not saying, hey, we're targeting L4 or L5. I'm not guaranteeing anything. But looking at your experience, looking at your background, yeah, I think about an L4 or L5, but could it go to an L3? Sure. Could it go to an L6? Absolutely. So again, their inability to share that detail is just, yeah, it's painful for everybody. Recently received your offer for GCP team. Wanted to say thank you for all your videos. Awesome. Yeah, we're getting a really, really good response on people who got offers. And again, remember, this is the art of what's possible. It is possible. It does take some work. You're going to have to look at my face a little bit. Remember a couple things. You can listen to my content without watching me. I don't provide a ton of visuals, right? So you can listen to me without watching me. I am low and slow. Try listening to me on 1.5, 1.75, 2x. And that's just another coaching piece. I listen to and do all my learning on 2x. There's occasionally people who speak too fast and I need to slow it down, but almost everything is listened to on 2x. It means I can consume twice as many books per year. Just a couple of data points, but thanks so much for letting us know. I know I like to get off track a little bit sometimes. Lack of strategic thinking and ability to get into deep solutions. I got this feedback from HR in my first round. The position I applied was an SMB sales role. How do you improve? Well, depth is, strategic thinking, I can't really say because I wasn't there, but depth, welcome to the world, right? And I say that in the nicest way to say, this is a challenge area for everybody. Depth is really tricky. It's something that I spend a lot of time coaching my clients on. I need you to dive deep. So how do we get to that depth? Well, we get to that depth on the behavioral side by really diving into our actions, not just saying the what we did, but then backing it up with the how. And then on the open-ended side, it's really picking very, very specific assumptions and going in depth on one framework concept at a time. That's how you get to that depth piece. But this is a major challenge area for a lot of people, so I don't want you to feel bad. I just want you to continue to prep and practice. I've gotten 3 to 4 interview feedback, and the 4th guy has taken over 2 weeks. Any recommendations? Recruiter says his hands are tied. With Google, sorry, recruiters' hands are absolutely not tied. If interviewers don't get their feedback in, I escalate to their manager. I would escalate to the next manager. I would escalate up to the VP. I hired program managers for 3 years, and that VP heard from me a lot. And what did it do? All my complaining and griping and pushing led to some big changes within a larger org because I would escalate all the time. So the recruiter's hands are not tied. They can recruit up, they can escalate up to the manager. 2 weeks for feedback is unacceptable. It's just unacceptable, okay? So continue to check in with them, but it's sad to hear that. Next week, you have a GCA round and you're from the mechanical field. 3 RRK rounds are over. GCA round, same for all roles and streams. It's not the same. So what you can expect is typically 3 questions, 2 open-ended, 1 behavioral. It really depends on the interviewer. There may be no behavioral question. There might be 3 open-ended questions. You're going to get something random, right? Open a pastry shop. It's like, wow, how do I answer that for a mechanical job, but you would think about all the maybe like infrastructure items or anything. I'm not mechanical clearly, but some of those items. So you're going to get something random. You're going to get something that is more role specific. And then on the behavioral side, it tends to cast a wide net, like a big accomplishment, a big strategy improvement where you'll likely have multiple examples. Clarifying the question above, Google Program Manager L5 NYC, not TPM, anchor, salary, and bonus. Okay, so anchor, when we anchor with Google, we anchor on one number. All the other numbers, you can go to practiceinterviews.com, go to free resources. I have an offer template. I don't think that people are using it enough. Plug in the numbers that way. I mean, if I'm going after an L5 program manager role in NYC, high threes is my anchor. 394, 395, 396, 397. Don't anchor into the fours, in the threes, but high threes is my recommendation. Thanks so much for everything. I'm an AVP. After 8 months of interviewing, I matched with a team at Workspace New York. Appreciate so much. Can't wait to write my LinkedIn post about it. Amanda, 8 months. Yes, I hope you connected with Tina along this journey. Anybody who's listening, AVPs, the team match stage is brutal. And it requires amazing gratitude, patience, all these things. So, man, it's so amazing. We'd love to see that LinkedIn post. Obviously, I'll always kind of prompt and say the same things. This is all about you. But way to hang in there. It can be a really long haul. And so, congrats. What's the expected total comp for an L4 suite in Canada Waterloo? That is levels.fyi. That will be your best resource there. Look at those numbers. Times 1.2, 1.25. So you create a high anchor. But there's definitely a lot of data there. Levels.fyi. I'm hiring committee approved for L5. Had 3 team match calls, but no alignment. I am flexible with locations and team. What should I do to get more team match calls? It's really hard. That's really hard, right? It's hard. You can look at roles that you're interested in and send those to your recruiter if you do it. 1 or 2 with the link, with bullets for why you're 3 to 5 bullets for why you're a fit for the role. Okay, but it's really, really tough. You're not at the organization, so it's hard to take control of these situations. Unfortunately, all you can really control is staying in touch with the recruiter. How do you know what level you're applying for? Google this. The recruiter's not transparent. Oh, okay, yeah, we answered this. L5, Amazon is 1 level down. L5 at Amazon, L4 Google. A recruiter said that the 5 on-site interviews they had for the TPM role are all positive, and he scheduled a meeting with the hiring manager. He also said the hiring manager is interested. The recruiter insisted I share comp details, and she insisted, so I decided to share something higher than the offer for this role to give room for negotiation. Is that a problem? Yeah, I mean, the thing about recruiters is that's their job. Like, nobody's tough. Well, not maybe nobody, but I'm very tough on recruiters, right? And I think I have the liberty to do that. I've been recruiting for 15 years. So I know the ins and outs of the industry, especially at Google. I was there for 5 years. I know how to create systems that are much better than what they're doing. If they insisted, if I was working with you, I would push you very hard and say, hey, I really need these numbers to see if you broke, right? But what you should do is when they continue to insist and insist, unfortunately, level is not confirmed yet. And without a confirmed level, it's hard for me to give you my comp expectations. I'd really like to wait until level is confirmed. And I would just draw a hard line. If they say, well, no, I need them, can you confirm my level? Because if they can't confirm your level, what are we supposed to do? Now, the other thing we can do, all right, let's bring in a negotiation tactic that we haven't talked a lot about. I'm going back, actually building a negotiation course right now. So we're going to go with the Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. If you've not read that book, you absolutely have to read that book. It is a game changer, okay? It will change the way you look at everything. If they ask for comp expectations, you can respond with, how am I supposed to do that? because how are we supposed to share comp expectations when we don't know level? So you can simply state, how am I supposed to do that? And if they're like, well, what do you mean? Well, how am I supposed to do that without the level? Right. And so that can be a really, really good kind of like deflating comment where they have to come back and respond to you. Just my 2 cents. Again, I'll throw some random stuff out here. Okay. We're at the hour and we are a half hour behind. I'm going to start to pick up the pace. This is not to overlook any of the comments or questions. We're just going to pick it up a little bit. We will start to catch up. We always do. Okay. Practiceinterviews.com. If you scroll right down on that homepage, if you buy the interview mastery course up till 11:59 Pacific time today, it's $100 off if you use the code DOG, D-O-G in caps. We do practice interviews. We do negotiation coaching. I have a ton of free resources. Sign up for our Slack group. There's so much free stuff out there. And if you want to purchase the services, those are also there. 99.9% of people consume the free content. I love that. That's the goal, right? If you like what we're doing, smash that like button. And if you've never subscribed, consider subscribing. Interviewed for a TPM role at Google and wasn't too strong for a TPM, but strong program manager. Recruiter is in the team match phase, but no interest yet. It's been a month. Is there any hope? There's always hope. So you can always stay positive. Just stay in touch with your recruiter. It doesn't always happen, but it's okay to go from T to P. That's very, very common, okay? So stay positive. Interviewed L5 UX program manager at Zurich and ended up as favorite external candidate and hire, but now they want to look at an internal candidate. So disappointed. Is this often the case? So Suzanne, it's actually kind of surprising. A lot of times it's harder to land the job when you are internal. Don't worry about it. You did what you can control. You can't control this internal candidate. So anything they say, great, I want you to hire the best person. Worst case scenario, you don't get this job, you're going to have another opportunity. I guarantee it. So just stay positive and stay in contact with your recruiter. I heard you recommend 2-page resumes in order to include more keywords. Do you have any recommended range for resume word count? Yeah, not too many. So sometimes just to squeeze it in on 2 pages, people they'll really work with the borders and they'll make the font really small. No word count suggestions, just make it readable. I do like 2 pages. Remember, we scroll. If it spills onto a 3rd page, I don't personally care. Nobody prints resumes anymore, okay? So we all live in a scrolling world. I don't like the 1-page recommendation. I think that's a recommendation that is very, very dated. Interviewed for a CE in New York, was on the fast track to be notified by end of the day or next, but that was on the 22nd. Emailed but received an auto apply that she's out to the 27th. Nope. Go ahead and reach out today. Yeah, let's reach out today. If they were out to the 27th, it definitely means they're going to probably be in the office all this week. Totally okay to reach out. Sometimes it's slow. Sometimes their communication skills aren't where they need to be, but I definitely want you to reach out today, okay? Just wanted to quickly stop by and let you know your videos were a tremendous help. You'll start at Google Dublin in September, and I wouldn't have made it without you. Amazing. Thank you so much for letting me know. I have to go to Dublin. I really want to visit that city. I've never been. And I just have so many people that I know who are in that office. It's such a diverse, great office. So when I get to Dublin, I will make a big announcement and hopefully be able to come in the office and meet with people. It would be amazing. Congrats. Finished your final interview for an AS role 19 days ago. Recruiter was fired and replacement has no idea what's going on with my account. How should I proceed? Well, that's weird because they have data. All that data is in the system. All that interview feedback should be in GHire, their system. So you need to ask that question. Is there missing more clarity? Is there missing interview feedback? Et cetera, et cetera. We want to find out, well, what is the missing data that you don't have? Because there's ambiguity there. We don't know what's going on. So push back a little bit and come back. Let us know what's going on. Can people from India apply to the Google APM program? You can. I can always tell you, it's always easier to get a job locally before transferring, like if you're looking at a job in the US, for example, but anybody can apply. Accepted a Google offer earlier this month. Really appreciate all the information provided on the YouTube channel. Amazing. Wow, we probably had at least 10 people come in today. Again, this is the art of possible. It's what's possible, everyone. You can do this. Trust me, you can. I did it. All these other people are doing it. You can do it too. Thanks for letting us know. Team match stage for 3 months. Initial recruiter left, so you're working with a new recruiter. How long would a recruiter typically work with someone in this stage? Mike, it's a huge, huge variability. If there continues to be interest in your profile, it can go on for a while. But it just depends on that overall engagement and interest level in you. As long as they're showing interest, they'll keep you going for a while, but at a certain point, they'll stop. But there usually isn't a defined timeline. Usually it's 1 month and they'll stop, or then if it goes past a month, it becomes a little bit more of a wild card. Good luck and keep us posted. Applied for a role with Google TPM this week and you have all the qualifications. There's no real timeline on the application. Usually I think what they say is if you haven't heard back in 3 to 4 weeks, it's time to move on. So I would say the same. Obviously, I recommend the networking strategy or getting referred if possible. I know that's not possible for everybody. Anybody can network, but the referral piece, that's not something everybody can have. Interested in applying for a technical writer position with Google. Would you be interested in guiding me through the transferable skills needed to obtain this position? Well, tech writers, that's an awesome role. It's very hard to land those roles because you have to be technical and you have to be good at writing, and that's kind of using 2 different sides of the brain. I think, I'm not positive, but I think it is. How would I guide you? Of course, I have all the free resources and we can do the one-on-one prep as well, okay? Practiceinterviews.com for that. I personally love writing and you're good at it, so you feel this could be promising. Sorry, other comments. A very diverse employment background. I'm wrapping up my last semester. Okay, so yeah, again, on the tech writing side, I mean, this is a pretty open-ended question. So I would just say continue to work on the technical components that you can work on. Definitely work and continue to bolster your writing skills. And then, of course, I'm here if you need the help. Google interviewed me for round 1. Put a position on hold for nearly 1 month now. I've not received a rejection email round, so you have no idea. It's for an app solution consultant. I mean, your recruiter should have communicated to you what the future plan was. So if they didn't, just follow up and say, hey, I know I'm on hold. How often should I check in with you? Once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month, something like that. I made sure my resume was on par with the qualifications asking for suggested online. You did a cover letter. Anything else you can stand out from the crowd? Well, I don't know what role you were applying for. I would say if you're applying to big tech that cover letters are never read, never. Anybody who tells you they read cover letters, I just haven't seen it. Smaller companies, maybe. If they request for it, maybe. The biggest thing is you got to start a networking strategy. If you're not getting interviews, just applying online, you got to start networking. That's going to be the biggest key. It's been more than 2 weeks since your on-site interview, followed up by no response. Yep, there's always a chance of getting a positive response. You just got to continue to follow up and continue to be gracious and kind. Sent a follow-up email 5 days ago, no answer. Should I call the HR lady who's in charge of my application? Typically, I don't like reaching out to other people until it's been like a minimum of 3 weeks. I know that's a crazy long time to wait. But when we get to this stage, if you still want to check in this week, check in this week. But I like only reaching out to other people in the process at about that 3 weeks plus, because 2 weeks is totally unacceptable. I get it. But at 3 weeks, something's going on and you need to go to another person. Working with Google almost 13 years as a supplier, and you applied for a PM with a good feedback. How do you think it matter from which region you're applying? Cheers from Ukraine. And thanks for hanging in there in Ukraine. I know it's a tough situation. How does it matter? Well, your experience, the region, it depends on the region that you're trying to get into. So I can't speak to that as much, but I can tell you that this experience is super applicable and it's going to be really helpful. But how you can move region to region from where you currently are, I'm not sure. I think there's going to be much more of a willingness, right, to help you out given the current situation in Ukraine. So if you have additional questions, come back, let me know. Love your content. Recruiter told me I'm interviewing between L7 and L8. L8 possible based on interview performance. How can I stand out as an L8 director level, especially in GNL interview? Okay, let's talk a lot about this. This is a tricky item. I don't want you to stretch too much from who you are, because sometimes we try to make our answers bigger to get at that next level and it hurts us. But usually at the director level, they're looking for massive amounts of complexity, large scope, large scale, really diverse programs, projects, initiatives. You either have that or you don't. I don't like to focus too much on what you need to do between L7 and L8. I want you to focus more on yourself. That's my best advice. Just finished one of my executive interviews for an AVP. You have another one this Friday. Thank you so much. Keep going. Sometimes this can take a long time, but it sounds positive. Just stay really positive on your end, okay? Offer phase with Google. Amazing. Keep us posted. How long do HMs take to decide and waiting for 1 week for final decision, have another offer deadline very close? You really just need to push on them and say, I have another offer. I'm really trying. I really want to know the viability of this, but it's really, really tough because I have this other offer that I strongly want to consider. Don't give up that other offer if it's good, right? So keep us posted. That's a tricky situation, but you just got to keep pushing. Hey, Jeff, for US GCP SA roles sales, the interviews are compressed. RRK, GCA, GNL, day one. 2 days later, presentation. Is this a good thing? Hey, if they can get you in all those interviews in 1 day, they're going to do it. It's just there's so much more flexibility now that we've gone virtual that we're not seeing it as often. But I can't say whether that's good or bad. But the fact that they're trying to get everything aligned, that's a good news for you. Can you tell a good range to start with for L4 BIE FANG location? BIE, business intelligence executive. That wouldn't make sense. If you've been on these live sessions before, I am not good with abbreviations, acronyms. Like I'm not very good with them. So I'm just going to have you come back and tell me. I don't know what a BIE is. Just in the moment, I don't know what that position is. Considering how hot the market is and firms struggling to retain talent, do you see Google and other firms changing up the recruiting processes in the near future? Seems like the process is just ambiguous and perhaps hinders them from finding good talent, as fatigue would deter talent from staying in the process. Look, I've been pretty honest, and I'll come back and have an honest moment with you. The process at Google wore me down as a recruiter. There was so much of it. It was so slow. There were so many rules, so much length of time. I think that they need to blow it up. I think that they need to change everything and make it much more team-oriented. And you're seeing some of those changes. But I don't think that they're making the massive changes that they need to make. And I think part of it is that we just need to change this whole interview landscape. We need to make interviewers much more accountable. There needs to be much more accountability there, and there needs to be much more accountability on the recruiting side and much, much better training. The training is just clearly falling short of expectations. We talk about this every time, just recruiters failing constantly. It's painful for us, painful for me to hear it. So I don't see anything changing. I just don't. Any idea what might be an L7, L8 people manager anchor for total comp, Zurich, Switzerland, Google Cloud customer engineering? Yeah, Zurich's going to pay pretty well, right? Now, L7 and L8 are going to be different. So, like when I think about Zurich, which is the best paying market across all of Europe, I would hope that an L7 would be like 500K US, or maybe more. And then an L8 could be, up to like 650 US. Zurich has more US types of salaries, something like that. but I would need to know a little bit more about the position. Does Google interview require specific technology coding knowledge? Let's say for Android development, is the candidate required to develop an app or DSA? Is a no. I'm going to push that back. If you were in recruiter conversations, I would ask them. But yeah, I would imagine if you're going after Android development, that they would have some very, very specific criteria, and that should be in the min and preferred qualifications of the jobs that you're seeing. Look at those preferred qualifications. They're really looking for you to have some of those items. Now, a recruiter says they really pushed the negotiation for the initial offer. Should I trust him and accept without negotiation? No, absolutely not. No, I would push back. Remember, we can always push back with graciousness and kindness. I would not accept that offer. How does a career prospect look for 20 plus years of experience in data project management from a non-FANG company to be accepted? Okay, so we're calling it MANG. This is pretty funny today. Or similar companies. I mean, a lot of people going into these big tech companies don't come from big tech. So just remember that. Is this possible? Of course it's possible. You just got to be able to get in the door and then prep and practice like crazy. Approach for a security PM role. We got through on-site rounds of interviews with scores of strong hire, 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 lean hire, lean hire, no hire after the interview. Okay, I'm really surprised they gave you all that feedback. Been placed in a team match. I assume this is because overall performance was good, but technical round wasn't the standard needed for this specific security PM role. What should you expect now? So again, it's hard for me to know what's actually going to happen, but clearly they like you. You got some strong hires, some hires. You have one negative interview. They don't think it's enough to stop it. So I think that's a good sign, but what's going to happen, I can't tell you for sure. Hi, should I expect another offer and join as a fallback and wait for Google if Google team match is taking too long and no end in sight? Yep, absolutely. Don't count on the team match to come through. That's not to have a negative outlook. It's just a realistic outlook. Think positively, accept the other offer. And if you need to burn a bridge because you get that right team match at Google, great. But if you're unemployed, I would take that other offer. Just secured and negotiated a job at a strong scale up using the principles you taught online. Awesome, Eric. Congrats. Thanks so much for letting us know. Good luck. Been stuck on team matching for 3 months and no team match interviews with Google, new grad TPM. No. I mean, you can share positions that you think are a fit online. Less is more. Link 3 to 5 bullets for why you're a fit, but it's really hard. It's really hard to control this team match stage. All you can do is stay in touch with your recruiter. EE background, and you worked as a patent agent and would like to transition to TPM role in FANG. It would really depend on the domain, right? So yeah, is it possible? Yeah, I mean, remember, they're going to look for 2 things as a TPM. They're going to look for strong technical domain knowledge and strong program management knowledge. You have to have both. Otherwise, it won't work. Okay, so anything's possible, but really work on those program manager fundamentals and then look for domain-specific TPM roles. Your son is a staffing account manager for Aerotech. He was a staff recruiter for Aerotech before that. What role is a good match for him? Recruiter. I mean, like account manager skills, they're still going to require the communication skills. I actually won't see it in my background, but my first recruiting role was at Aerotech too. It did not last very long, admittedly. I don't even have it in my profile, but I started there. But yeah, I would say recruiter role for sure. Interview coming up next week, and I'm also joining Google as a contractor. Should I provide this info to my interviewer? Nope, not necessary. Not at this point, at least. When do Google recruiters tend to ghost? Delay in receiving feedback, loss of interest. Also, do the rejections tend to come quickly? It depends. Google recruiters who ghost are not doing their job. And whenever your profile gets closed out, if you never hear back from them, you are going to get a candidate or recruiter feedback or interview process feedback survey. You need to check your junk mail consistently. Sometimes it lands in junk. blast them. There is no reason that they should ever ghost you other than they don't know how to do their job, okay? Giving interview at Google for full-time role. Oh, awesome. Okay, cool. You don't need to provide this to your interviewer, not right now, okay? You don't need to discuss that right now. If they say, what are you doing in your job world right now? You can say, I'm actually joining as a contractor, but I'm looking to get into a full-time role. Ugh, I don't love that. It's a little bit of a tricky scenario, but it shouldn't come up. Thanks to all your videos. I can make it into Google. Amazing. Congrats. Thank you so much for coming in and letting us know. And we know how much hard work and effort you put in to get there. I thought feedback was not available after interviewing. Depends on your recruiter. Sometimes they give feedback, sometimes they don't. The reason why they don't is it's a legality issue. If they say, hey, you bombed X, you can come back and sue Google. And that's what Google and all these big companies and companies in general are trying to avoid. Would I have ever given you your ratings from an interview? Never. Would never have done that. So I do see it occasionally. It's not common. There's no confidentiality there. They're just telling you the scores, right? So I don't think it's a big deal. Some recruiters will share feedback. The vast majority will not. Cleared our KGCA using your very helpful tips and videos and gave your interview for GNL. Still waiting for the verdict. It's more than 2 weeks. Is that normal? It's normal, but it means you should reach out to your recruiter right now. Thank you, Jeff. Your content's super helpful. You made it into Google. Amazing. Okay. Awesome, Raul. I think that was you on both LinkedIn and YouTube. Thank you so much. Congrats. Europe-based and in the interview process, should one disclose their pregnancy, 7 months pregnant, so the earliest start date could be January 1st after mat leave? Okay, Summer. This is a super, super tricky one, right? And we run into this all the time. This is a huge personal decision. I believe that women should protect themselves and that there should be no bias in the interview process and that they should hire you because you are the best person for the role. But there's also a business need for this hire. So knowing that you're not going to be there for the next 6 months or so, that's a big deal too. So it's really up to you. This is a very, very personal decision. We're doing virtual interviews, so they can't tell. Right, so it's up to you. You can always go either way, but it's a tricky scenario that I never have the right answer to. Do you have any insight on the comp on product ops group going to HC next week for L4 SF? I don't see much content online about this position. So yeah, product ops is going to pay not like product, okay? This is not a product manager role. So this is L4 SF product ops. You're looking to get into the mid-2s, somewhere around the mid-2s in year 1, maybe a little bit more, but it's not going to pay like a product manager, okay? So you should be anchoring high 2s, low 3s, probably high 2s. Congrats, Amanda. Welcome to AVP Life. Ping me. Yeah, and so if you, Amanda, you want to ping Tina on Slack group, and for anybody here, we have a free Slack group. It's free. People are chatting with each other. The community is holding people up. We have amazing people like Tina continuing to show up here. Tina, Amanda can really set you up for success if you're still hanging out with us. She can give you some advice on how to hit the ground running. Because you've been there, Tina, now for, I think we're at almost a year. How do I answer a hypothetical question based on Google products? In a smart answer, should the action display depth in my knowledge on the product? Hypothetical question. Actions are behavioral. So a hypothetical question based on a Google product, you're going to use CFAS, clarify, framework, assumption, solution. And the best way to have a good result is make some very specific assumptions about that product area and really dive into one framework concept at a time. To add to my earlier question, I forgot I have a meeting with the hiring manager for a PM role. Any tips on what to expect? Also, if I don't like the role, is it worth holding out? Yeah, so great excitement, enthusiasm, smiley, great answer to tell me about yourself, great questions. What do you love about the role? What do you love about the company? What's the most fun and engaging thing you're working on right now? What do you love the most about your team? Positive, 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 about them, about them, about them. And then I can't tell you if it's worth holding out or not. If you really don't like it, hold out. But sometimes when we hold out, there's no job behind it. Okay, just something to know. I think we should focus less on the position and more on the manager. The manager will make or break your life. It's been 2 weeks since you talked to the HM. I was told that HM is talking to other candidates, but I have 2 offers. Should I push? Gotta push. Gotta push back and say, I have 2 offers. Can you please give me an update and be very gracious and kind? Do you provide training on BSA, supply chain? All the time. Yep, lots of BSAs. Love working on those roles. They're super fun. Currently in the team match phase, a recruiter said, due to the new process, my package is not being presented to HC yet. Does this mean that my virtual on-site interview has mixed feedback? It means that it's likely not strong enough to move forward to HC without some form of manager support, but you wouldn't get to this stage if the feedback wasn't pretty strong, okay? Thank you for everything. Love your content. Can you please guide more BSA SAP interview process and how to prepare? Yeah, so we get a ton of BSA questions. I can tell you, I do have a draft video on BSAs I've started to work on. It's pretty robust. It's probably going to take a lot longer than a normal video, so I'm working on it. But business systems analyst, and obviously they made the move to SAP from Oracle a couple of years ago, so SAP is also a big focus. Actually had a BSA SAP yesterday for a different organization. So systems, got to get into the weed of how you implement requirements, solutioning, all within the system space, and then heavily collaborative. Those are the 2 biggest things. Like, you can't be a great BSA if you're not great with people. You can't be a great BSA if you don't love getting into the weeds of the systems and analysis. So it's got to be a little bit technical, got to have those technical components, but you got to have collaboration as well. Like this video, let's make it 100 likes, say SAP. Hey, if you like what we're doing, smash that like button. And if you've never subscribed, consider subscribing. Subscribing. Okay. BSA, supply chain role, what are the best resources? I really like this. There's one YouTuber who focuses heavily on BSAs. You'll find her if you just type in business systems analyst interview. But obviously heavily got to focus in on your behavioral answers and CFAS for those open-ended questions. You're going to get a lot of open-ended questions in those interviews. Thanks for your help. Got your technical phone screen for an L3 suite in 2 weeks. Great, and continue to use those online resources like Pramp and LeetCode and all those amazing resources. Practice as much as you can with others. Started filling out the packet with external references, comp expectations, why you left every job, why Google. Does this mean you went to HC? HC or the offer process, leave comp blank. Applied to Google and got an invitation for the first call. Now I see there is one more role opened up. Should you apply to that too, or let them know that you're also interested? You can let them know that you're also interested in that role, or you can apply. It's up to you, but really focus in on the role in front of you. 5 years of experience, 150K total comp and MO. Okay, I don't know what MO is. Interviewed for SWE at Amazon, G passed, but down leveled to SDE, L3 at Tech, declined 190 total comp Amazon, hoping for 230 at Google and Mountain View in T-Match. Is that reasonable? 230K, L3 SWE coming in the door. Google, yeah, I would go for a little bit more. It can be up to 250, 260. This cloud solution architect interview at Google involve coding rounds similar to software engineering roles. Solution architect should not have coding rounds, but just always double check with your recruiter, but solution architect should not have coding. Can the resume be updated after HC approval? It's been 8 months since applying and my resume has improved. It's pretty much a non-factor, so I wouldn't really worry about it. You can if you want to share it with the recruiter, but I don't think it's a big deal. Business intelligence engineer, Seattle, L4, BIeng. I'm not familiar with BIeng and how much your coding, but I would look at that as pretty close to what levels.fyi is putting as a SWE. Maybe a little bit of a downtick. Maybe do that SWE times 90%, for example. Does preferred location impact decision of HC? It does not. How does Google approach down leveling versus rejecting? If they think you're still a very viable candidate, but they just think the level is a little bit aggressive for you coming in the door, they'll move you down. Usually, if it's good enough feedback and you could come in at the lower level, they'll do that over rejecting. Okay, we answered that one. How to answer, how do you make internal, external stakeholders see things your way? Have you ever worked with these stakeholders before? Yes or no? Are these stakeholders internal or external stakeholders? Are these stakeholders in like roles or different roles or both? We're going to get some of that historical data. We might try to figure out timeline. Is there a timeline to get them to see things my way? Do I need to do that yesterday, today, in the next week, next month, so we can establish timeline? What's the scope of what we're trying to get them to see things on our way? Is this a small, medium, or large scope? So all sorts of things to clarify. And we set the framework of, kind of listening, questioning, risks, resources. You get a little bit of that programmatic and a little bit of that collaborative framework. I've done videos on both those, so you can look up program manager framework or collaboration framework. Then make some assumptions that are role specific of when you might have to do that in your position and solve. I hope that helps. Thanks for helping out the community achieve their dreams. Does GCP product manager role have team matching process? My recruiter mentioned that one team was particularly interested. Yeah, product can have team match as well. What is a good anchor for L5 product manager, 10 years of experience in Seattle? L5 product Seattle, L5 product Seattle. I mean, I would be anchoring. I would definitely be anchoring in the mid to high floors for Seattle. Absolutely, product is so hot right now. Does Google APM program only hire Ivy League students? There is no role at Google that hires only Ivy League, and it's just a little bit of, they used to back in the day. It was a long time ago, but not now. You do not need to be out of an Ivy League school. When is the behavioral questions? Well, when behavioral questions, like tell me about an outcome that was not expected, what did you do? I haven't faced any such situation. Should I be honest and say that I didn't have to create one? That would be surprising to me, that you've never in your career faced an outcome that you didn't anticipate. I want you to reflect back a little bit more. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. It can be just a partial item within a program, project, or initiative. But 100% of the outcome always being what we expected, I think I want you to look a little harder. Okay. Awesome. I want the two of you to connect on Slack. Given tech stock price declines, should I use potential further declines as one rationale for asking for more equity? Nope. That's not something that they will take into consideration. Set the anchor based on what we want. We're not looking at future past economic items. Is there a way to work with you one-on-one for a brief conversation? You have a director level referral into Oracle for an ERP app sales manager and hiring manager referral at AWS channel sales. Any parallel between the roles? Oracle guy says filling internal first. Always an excuse. Well, channel sales, sales foundationally is going to have some crossover and feel similar. Now remember, AWS will be 100% behavioral questions, right? So we could anticipate that and getting ready for that. But what I tell all these people, that wasn't the right English. What I tell people is, unfortunately, I just don't have the bandwidth for brief conversations. I don't have the bandwidth to do intro calls. That's why I do these lives. So I can cast a wide net. That's why we have the Slack group. So if you are interested in coaching, I recommend going to the website and booking a session. Thanks for the advice on providing a few other roles to the recruiter if I don't get selected to move to HC. Should I keep these roles in the same job family? Same job family. Cool-off period is 9 months to 1 year or 2 years in Google. Can you please confirm? After 9 months, can I email the old recruiter? Yep. Yeah, kind of that like 6 to 9 months. They say a year, but at 9 months, you should be reaching out. It's the right time. Is there a way to find out what other roles fall under product ops other than product strategy? I don't know. Prod ops is its own like unique thing. So I don't know how you would find that out other than asking your recruiter. How should you showcase impact if you are on a team that is not heavily data driven? There's always data. There's always data behind everything we do. So again, sometimes I want a little bit more reflection, a little bit more time spent there, and that will yield great results, okay? Really sit with what you've done and you'll find that data. Would there be a sales or account manager questions in partners roles interview? The role is ABT partners. Okay, I don't know what that is, but yeah, these types of questions would be similar, absolutely. Google is opening a new office in India. Is it wise to select the new location as they might require more hires for that particular location? Only if that location is beneficial to you, your family, and makes sense. Otherwise, I would just go after the location that's best for you. Thank you for your videos. Appreciate all the effort and time. Any tips for data analyst type roles? You completed your written test yesterday, and hopefully you got an interview coming up. Awesome. Yeah, for data analysts, just dive deep into the data. How do you drive results with data is critical, and then very, very strong communication and collaboration skills as well. For GCP product manager interviews, should I expect all the product sense strategy questions to be GCP oriented? 100% no. I've had multiple product managers interviewing for GCP that never got a single question about GCP. Okay, be ready for the randomness. Try exponent.com. Try exponent.com. Look at their interview questions. They're sourced. Those are the best product questions. You'll see how random they are. Follow up on the earlier. Should I prioritize? Yeah, I mean, again, I just don't go too far away from the role. Okay. Is CS background necessary for an APM program? Nope. You're welcome. Hi, when is the right time to deny other offers? Is verbal offer good enough or only after getting the written offer? Also, verbal offer depends on, I wouldn't give you an offer letter until you have verbally accepted those numbers. But yeah, it's pretty concrete. Remember, some people are going to be more conservative and want the offer letter in writing, signed, background check done. Other people are going to be less conservative. So it just depends on your amount of risk that you're willing to take, but usually that verbal is a pretty good sign that you can move forward. Yeah, APM. It's going to lean, all these associate or lower level roles, more junior level roles, are going to lean more behavioral. Okay, so really be ready with your great behavioral answers. You're welcome. Clear the ROK, any specific GCA AI consultant role? It's always the same, right? Wear the hat of the role. That's your number one. And then secondarily, use CFAS. If you're not using CFAS and wearing the hat of the role, those are the two best recommendations I can give anybody for the GCA round for any role. Okay, newish sub. Okay, love subs. Thanks so much for subscribing. What do you recommend for coding and system design interviews? Any service or coaching? Well, there's so many out there. I would just plug them in. We used to have a sweet coach in Hong Kong, but I simplified the business a little bit this year, so we no longer have that, but there's so many good resources. And obviously there's lots of free resources to practice. If you go into our Slack group, there's also free peer one-on-one that people are doing as well. Learned a lot. Okay, you had interviews recently. They told me no red flags, but we're looking for more experience. Would they come back? Absolutely. Absolutely. If the feedback overall is good, they will likely find you again. Okay, I'm going to stop here. If any additional questions come in, I will answer those final questions, but I want to do my last prompt. If you are interested in our interview mastery course, DOG, dog, in caps, will get you $100 off until 11:59 Pacific time today. Again, that's DOG, dog in all caps, to get 100 off the interview mastery course. That's US dollars. We have practice interviews. We have negotiation coaching, all at practiceinterviews.com. That free resources page is pretty good on our website. There's 9 really solid free resources. Obviously, there's tons of videos. And if you haven't joined the Slack group, it's free. Get some advice for free on the Slack group. It's kind of the middle in between these lives. I'm not always on there every day, but I try and hop in as often as I can. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to answer these last couple of questions and hop off. I've watched all of your 256 videos. The content is super helpful. Oh no, not that first video. If anybody wants to be entertained, I don't know if I want to prompt to say I already went down this path. You can watch my first video. It is literally one of the worst YouTube videos you'll ever see, but I didn't pull it down. It's a reflection of where I was and where I am now. But watching all those videos, that's awesome. Awesome. Thank you for that. GCP product manager interviews, they seem to have added a craft and execution instead of system design. So it's not instead of system design. And yeah, it was like, well, they replaced the more technical interview because people were bombing out all the time. It is exactly as it sounds. And one of the reasons why they put this in here, and I can tell you I work with a lot of product managers, execution is a major failure point for product managers in the interview. Why? It's all ideation. There's no execution. As a product manager, you need to execute. So just make sure in that interview you are talking about that execution stage, but I want you to do that in every interview. Currently 3 weeks in the team matching phase. I've heard that it may take up to 2 months. Currently have a competing offer. Yeah, this is tough, Alan. You're welcome. But yeah, this is tough. There's really nothing you can do. So hopefully you can stay patient, and worst case scenario, you accept this other offer, keep the team match stage going. And if you have to burn a bridge, you burn a bridge because, Google is your ideal company. How can I join the Slack group channel? Practiceinterviews.com. You can sign up for free. Okay. You are welcome. Okay, everybody, I'm going to hop off. Have a fantastic day. I'll be back next week.